Yeah, I appreciate you inviting me here to speak today. As he said, my name is Andy Dorsett, and I work with schools in Maryland and 7 other states in the Mid-Atlantic region that have access to Mathematica and Wolfram technology. So I don't get to introduce Mathematica to the University of Maryland for the first time. I help you take what you know and go further, help you see how to integrate Mathematica further into your courses and research. If you're using Mathematica but civil engineering is not, I give you the tools and information to sort of get them on board. And also, as you are finding the need for additional software, I find good fits for you from our technology stack. As you mentioned, I've been with Wolfram Research since 2008. In this role, working with schools that have access to Mathematica, my territory has changed a few times, but Maryland has always been in my territory. So I've gotten to know many of the professors and IT staff for more than a decade. Before that, I spent 8 years as a junior high and high school math teacher in a couple of public schools in Indiana. I was an adjunct professor for a couple of years at Indiana State University teaching pre-service math teachers some basics. It was analytic geometry. And none of the places where I taught did I have any better technology than a graphic calculator. And that's it. You know, getting 25 or 26, 15-year-olds to do the same thing at the same time with different graphic calculators is madness. So what I know now from Mathematica, I could have taken my students so much further in the material. So you're going to be hearing from me from a former math teacher's eyes about why this is good for education, why this helps you understand the material better, why our language is easy to learn and can extrapolate up to what you're doing. All right? As we go along, I have a lot to cover because even for experienced users of Mathematica, or people that have been using Mathematica for more than 2 decades, we find that some of the entry places into Mathematica are brand new and very useful for veteran users. So I don't want you to think I'm speaking down to you and your expert engineering knowledge, just that there are many ways to get involved. All right, just a couple of minutes about Wolfram Research, just because if you're going to be using Mathematica and investing time and resources in it, you should have a sense of who we are. So I'll go through this quickly. The world's top 200 universities have access to Mathematica. We are all over the Baltimore and DC area. I mean, you know, George Washington, Georgetown, Catholic University, American University, UMBC, Towson, Temple, Drexel, Penn, Princeton, all over the place, all right? The Fortune 50 companies use Mathematica not just for computation, also presentation and analysis, all right? You guys know about Wolfram Alpha, yes? You love Wolfram Alpha. There, yeah. University of Maryland has access to Mathematica and Wolfram Alpha Pro, and I'll talk about that later on at that time. Wolfram Research has been around for more than 30 years. In that time, we've seen other software companies live and die, or be absorbed by larger companies because they couldn't make it on their own. We have absorbed a modeling software company just a few years ago and incorporated it into our stack of technology. That shows you the health of our technology in our company. In the early days, back when Stephen Wolfram showed up here at University of Maryland, we were used in the STEM fields and quantitative areas in social science and business and finance. However, once Wolfram Alpha showed up, everything became computational. All right. My favorite story about this is I work with Pennsylvania schools. There was an English professor at Temple University who was interested in computation. She purchased Wolfram Alpha Pro from us to help her grade her freshman first-year writing students' essays. She loaded the student's essay into Wolfram Alpha Pro and gave her a full text analysis. It told her for this particular type of essay that the most often used word was the word different, and that told her that the student completely missed the point of the essay, so she could sort of read it with better eyes. And she was so impressed that she talked to the IT staff, and they ended up getting a site license for it.
You want questions during the talk at the end? What's your preference?
I'm sorry?
You want questions during the talk?
Oh, we can make this interactive. As questions come up, I don't want you to forget them, yeah.
So with respect to language, one subject that we're interested in is what's called as knowledge representation and reasoning.
Okay.
And that involves 2 methods. One is knowledge graphs, and these knowledge graphs are ways to represent concepts and connect them in a directed graph. And the other is semantic vector spaces, which is a newer version from linguistics and so on and so forth. They have been united in text processing and particular analysis of text, and they are the essence of why we have successful translation schemes and so forth from one language to the other automatically. But the question is, to what extent is or is not anything that Mathematica or Wolfram Research has linked to this kind of models or providing tools to construct this kind of model? As far as you know. And so what triggered my question is when you went to language and you start talking about frequency of words and so forth, this mathematics can actually define these things. The question is, can you interface this kind of mathematics or algorithms to Mathematica?
I think the answer to that, I don't know if I can be incredibly specific with that just because I'm not very versed on that type of work, but I do know that in version 11, we're at version 12 right now, we incorporated machine learning capability and neural networks into our base product. And yes, machine learning is part of, well, that's what that brochure is. It's part of what you have standard with Mathematica. And the examples that I show in this area have to do with text, have to do with handwriting. And I have some industry examples of how that's used as well. So my sense is that that is incorporated. Exactly what it looks like or what it's called, I'm not sure. Okay, you're very welcome. All right. About 5 years ago, we introduced our browser-based version of Mathematica called Mathematica Online. You don't have access to it yet here at College Park, but I'm working on that. Basically, this is being able to compete with Mathematica from your tablet or your smartphone, be able to share Mathematica over, through the cloud, and I'll show you some examples of how that works in the practical ways we go through. Finally, a few years ago, we defined our programming language as the Wolfram Language. I like to say, Stephen Wolfram founded the company, and he can pretty much name anything after himself that he wants. So he named it the Wolfram Language. It's computation, it's data, all mixed in one. So for our sake, I'm going to use the terms Wolfram Language, Mathematica syntax, Mathematica code, all together simultaneously or interchangeably. All right. How many of you are Mathematica users? And the rest of you know? Let's lump the no's and with the occasionally, but I'm not strong. Okay, that's the majority. Okay. So that's good. So we do get to take some time to look at the base level of Mathematica, which is great for everybody. If you've never used Mathematica before, you can pretend like it is Wolfram Alpha. Okay? If you can find the equal sign on your keyboard, now you can enter like you're at Wolfram Alpha. Graph the sign of X. I hold Shift and Enter to evaluate the cell. What my machine is doing now is it's talking to the servers back in Champaign, Illinois, to figure out what these words mean. It gives me the graph, then gives me the Wolfram language to make it from scratch. Okay? Why is this important? Because you can literally hit the ground running and compute in your own words. All right? Then if I wanted to actually modify this graph, we could just click on the Wolfram language, and then it gets rid of my connection to Wolfram Alpha, so now I'm in Mathematica. As I look at this, common sense and curiosity take over, and I say, all right. If I see sine, I bet we can look at cosine. Yeah. If we see x, maybe we can look at x squared. My machine is bogging down. I apologize, guys. I have a new machine, and I'm just getting to know each other still. So, yeah.
It could be this building.
I'm sorry?
It could be this building.
Are
The
you
building.
wireless connected?
Sorry?
Are you wireless connected?
I have a little Verizon Wi-Fi
Okay.
that I
Yeah.
use. It's since I'm in an interior room, it can be kind of
Yeah.
shaky. All right. Another place we can go to begin with Mathematica from scratch without really knowing much, but let's just open up a blank notebook. So I've got this blank notebook, I don't know what to do, but I can type mathematics. We can say x minus 1 to the third power, hold shift and enter. Mathematica doesn't do anything with it because I didn't give it a command, but it gives me some suggestions. It recognizes I have a binomial, so here's some things I can do with the binomial. Let's just click expand.
Can we comment? For those of you who are taking 662 with me, I'm looking for someone to do a Mathematica plus in the algebra project on LMIs. And even those that they take for audit, they're welcome to try. Okay.
So I can. We can just click these buttons and the Mathematica just follows through. I'm not doing any programming. I'm simply letting my curiosity take over. We can put this parabola on a plot. It's fine. It looks kind of plain. We can dress it up and add some pre-built plotting that we choose. Let's just say scientific. That looks good. We're done. Now, what I can do now is that this is the graphic that I want, then I can click on this roll up inputs button and it pulls all those steps that I built from the first. It kind of rolls them up into one thing. I apologize. There's something going on with my machine. This usually runs really fast. I was just running through some emails with my VPN on me about this mode.
Do you have your email on?
I'm sorry?
Do you have your email on? You may want to disable it. Because A takes time, but B is slowly.
All right. So the idea here is that I can just begin by clicking on buttons. I don't have to do any programming. Then what I can do is, again, like I did before with that sine example, you can come up here and just change options. You know, maybe you want to see what this is as a cubic polynomial. I saw the word marketing in that list. We can dress this up in this way. Now, so I've been with Wolfram Research for 12 years, I mentioned. As I do these presentations at schools, the veteran users come to these talks in the early days with a list of gripes. There were some things that they really did not like about Mathematica, and I was the face of their frustration. And one of those things was, for years people said, why doesn't Mathematica have a multiple undo feature? I couldn't answer that. I don't know. I guess it takes more programming than you would assume. At version 10, we included this so you could Control Z and multiple undo all the way back. If you've never used Mathematica before, you're probably thinking, well, of course you can. Everything can do this. Well, it takes a little more to build it than it is to experience it.
Well,
So-
of course, Steve never makes a mistake, so he doesn't.
No comment.
No comment.
There are three basic rules for using Mathematica. Functions are always capitalized, like a Mathematica function like plot, or something mathematical or scientific like cosine. Square brackets go around the thing that I evaluate. Finding cosine of x goes in square brackets. Curly braces go around lists, ranges, domains, that sort of thing. Everything in Mathematica pertaining to these rules has to follow them. We're very consistent. So let's build something. I'm wanting to create on my own. I want to create a plot. I remember the capital letter, but just like Google does, we do this as well. We give you some next suggestions of what we think you may want to look at. We'll just choose plot. We'll pull this drop-down menu in front of us. We'll choose the first option, and Mathematica makes a template for us. This was brand new a few years ago. I kind of think this is training wheels for learning Mathematica. Another way to create a template is to go up to the very top under the palettes menu. Let's just open up the basic math assistant. We're going to click on the 3D tab, for instance, and the plot 3D button. What I love about this is that this demonstrates how consistent our syntax is. And we're told that we're one of the more consistent languages out there. The name of the Mathematica function, the thing I'm plotting, and then the definition of the variables, right? Once I know how to do one type of plot, I know how to do all types of plots. There's no real exception to the rule. Let me go through and finish this off. Cosine of x, y is x goes from 0 to 4 and y the same. And evaluate this. It took me half a line of code, a little bit of Mathematica knowledge. I just filled in the boxes, and I have this really attractive looking three-dimensional graph where I can see the cosine behavior in the x and the y direction. I don't know of another software program that takes that small amount of code to do something that attractive. Questions so far? All right. Let's jump right to making an interactive model, okay? Now, I taught high school for 8 years. Once I hit year 5, they let me teach the upper level classes, which was great. But if you remember, graphing calculators drove me insane, so we did everything by chalkboard. I was one of those chalk and talk teachers. But what I wanted my students to see here is basic algebraic behavior. As that number in front of the x grows, the wave compresses. Easily, we get that. But let's show this dynamically. Let's just copy this whole model. We'll put this in our function called manipulate. This is our model building tool. All right, so now instead of a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4, I'm going to create a variable called frequency. Okay? We're just going to step out to the side and define frequency as a range of values from 1 to 5. For the sake of comparison, let's look at what I've highlighted against this plot that I started with up here. Basically, it's the same thing, only I've added a variable that I want to manipulate, and I've defined it from 1 to 5.
Why did you use the word loop?
Because the function's name is manipulate. Manipulate came from the function animate, which rolls through. When I evaluate manipulate, it gives me a slider. And I move the slider and I see the button. Or I see the
Oh, I see.
pressing. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. We can add another variable, let's say plus b. B, let's say it goes from 1 to 10. Another range of values gives me another slider. Here we have phase shifting. We can click the plus sign and see the values, and we get some animation controls as well. All right. Now, I taught my students about the sine function. I want to investigate this behavior, the cosine and tangent, but I don't want to make 2 new models because that would be a lot of work. So what I want to do is create a variable that will allow me to swap in trig functions as I need them. We're just going to pull out sine, create a variable called trig. Now I want to define trig as, now it's not a range of values, it's its own new list of trig functions. So when I start a new list, what do the rules say that I need? About the brackets, the braces. Yep. Now let's look at this for just a minute. I know I've taken a long time with this, but I want you to get very familiar with why Mathematica does what it does. Manipulate is highlighted. That means something that pertains to this function is unfinished. Obviously, I've got open braces that aren't closed. Okay, it's, you have a long program. It's easy to get lost in these things. So this is a very short one, but Mathematica shows me, close those ones that are open. How will Mathematica represent this? The notation is different. How will it show sine, cosine, and tangent? Buttons. Cosine. Tangent. All right. For my Mathematica veterans, you notice the asymptotes are gone. That was something that people used to bark at me about too.
Why do
They would get mad because they said, Mathematica doesn't really know what it's doing. It's just connecting this point to that point down there. And I would say, I can't prove you wrong, but we actually removed it so that you don't see the asymptotes unless you move the slider. Then you can see it. Let's add 3 more. Secant, cosecant, cotangent. After 3 more items, you may think 3 more buttons, but not so. After 5 items, Mathematica creates a drop-down so that your model is less cluttered. Yeah, here we go. I apologize. My machine is really bugging me out, and I'm not sure why. Maybe I need to shut it down overnight. That's what's going on. Anyway, less than 2 lines of code. Just a little bit of Mathematica knowledge, following the rules, and I've got a basic trig graph model with 2 parameters, 6 functions, and what took me a few days in my classroom for a high school pre-calculus classroom I could do in just a few minutes. All right? Let's go a step further though. Let's move this from my machine to the web. Why? Because you're building something in Mathematica, and perhaps you want to create something that somebody outside of College Park needs to see. Maybe there's an engineering firm that's a startup and they haven't had a chance to talk to a chef, and you build something they need to see in your prototype or whatever. So let me show you how this begins. We're going to do some basic image processing. We're going to grab an image from the web. Let's use our little Wolfram logo. Anytime we define something up at Wolfram Research, we give it a logo. We have logos running around all over the place. So our little Wolfram Language logo is, you may guess, it is a wolf. Wolf for Wolfram. And his name is Wolfie. That was not my choice. I would not name a wolf. Choose something more vicious than that. Anyway, here we got just a little border image. It's kind of cute, nothing really exciting. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to deploy this to the cloud so that anybody can see it. We're going to use the function cloud deploy. I want to set the permissions to public. We're not going to put this behind a login screen or anything. What Mathematica is going to do now is should create for me a URL that will take me out to the cloud. Oh, Mathematica. I'm sorry, this is usually much faster than this. Yeah, guys, I'm meaning to restart. Let's see if this, yeah, this is the worst. Presenting your
Your computer or is it network?
This is, yeah, unfortunately this is not a network issue. This is, I think, my machine issue. If you will give me just a moment, let me have my machine just restart very quickly. You can indulge me for just a moment. I apologize. In the meantime, okay, I'd like to send around a sign-in sheet for you. Okay. The reason is tonight I want to be able to send you a link where you can download my entire Mathematica notebook. All right, including some resources, how to get access to Wolfram Alpha Pro. And then by the end of the hour, I'm going to have Mathematica use this sign-in sheet to choose 2 of you to win a prize.
Do you have an app for this?
There's a Wolfram Alpha app that is, I think it's like $1.99 or $1.99 a month. I don't know. I don't have it. We have a free Wolfram Cloud app, but you can't do computation on it until you have Mathematica online.
So, do you guys make hardware? You know, like, the reason I'm asking is because at home I have a 11-year-old. And of course, all the kids down got these graphing calculators from TI. And it seemed to me if you wanted to take on TI, you'd have to have something you can hold in your hand.
But it works on phones.
Yeah, Mathematica Online is our cloud-based version of Mathematica that will run through the Wolfram Cloud app. But I tell you what, it's less about that and more about a lot of schools, give their students Chromebooks and laptops. I've got a 7th grader and a 10th grader, and they both have Chromebooks from their schools. So it's cloud-based stuff that seems to be more important these days, from what I've experienced. I don't hear about people.
But they still walk around with their graphic calculators. In addition to what?
Yeah, that's true. They may. If they do, they don't talk to me about it though, because people are not telling me that they choose graphing calculators over Mathematica these days. At least from the conversations I've been having. If that makes sense. But we don't have a handheld device, except there is the little Raspberry Pis. Back at Mathematica 10, we loaded the Mathematica kernel on that, so you can actually compute with Mathematica in that way, but it doesn't have the front end like this does. Okay, guys, I apologize. My machine was slow. I was checking email before this talk, and my machine was slowing down, so I think there was something else going on. Okay, let me go back here. Let me find my little Word logo. Thanks for your patience, by the way.
Do you have something on cellular automata? So
Yes, there's quite a few.
you're going to show us that as well?
I hadn't planned to, but I can look some of those up
Yeah.
as well.
I
Yeah,
mean, I hope in the afternoon we can look at some more advanced stuff.
yeah, we'll get to that. I want to delay the foundation, and then we'll get to the advanced material.
The other question I have is, when David was a student, we went and looked carefully at the so-called axiom that IBM was doing at the time. And the reason we were attracted to that is because it allowed us to create what we call the core tower of mathematics, starting from elementary rings and then building functions and rings and matrices and all that stuff. Because we wanted to do essentially calculations, vicinity, and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I don't know if you ever did anything like it. That's one of the complaints I had with Steve when he came. That I wanted to do this kind of algebra, and I couldn't do it with mathematics.
That was a few years ago, there's a good chance that that is.
And of course, we're going way beyond this kind of mathematics now.
Oh, sure.
But we use it in mathematics for things like trust and other kinds of computations. And I mean, I can also do these things even with Maple. And I think Axiom, have you tracked Axiom? I don't think Axiom is going anywhere. It's very, I don't know if it's even used it.
Okay, so I think we are back online now. Let me go back to Mathematica and show you what happened very quickly. So what this did when I evaluated this cloud deploy, it gave me a URL. And what that is doing is it's setting this up so that I can run it from the cloud. So as I move this slider, there's a little bit of a lag because it relies on my internet connection and I'm in an interior wall. And also it's got to compute on the cloud and come back. But the idea here is that the people that you are showing your Mathematica work to don't need a download to see what you built in Mathematica, which is really portable. Let me give you a little bit of background as well. When I build this, and I give it to you guys, every time you move a slider, you're using my cloud credits. As a Mathematica user, as somebody that's downloaded Mathematica, I have cloud credits. I think every user has 5,000 a month. And moving the slider takes 1 or 2 cloud credits every time you move it. So it's very computationally inexpensive. However, if you're going to be building this for a large lecture hall of students, then maybe we need to consider another option like Mathematica Online. But for small cases, this is a great way to build and show in a really easy way. Let me try to skip through so I can get to some more advanced material. As we're going through this, we can build in Mathematica, deploy it to the cloud, but then we can also embed it in other places. So if I wanted to embed my Mathematica notebook in Canvas, which I know University of Maryland has, or if I'm using, do you guys use R?
Yeah.
What about Python?
Yes.
If you wanted to embed Mathematica code inside of Python, you could do it using this embed code formula. Why would I do that? So you've got this Python program, but every software has its limits. Every software has its thing it just doesn't do well. For the sake of argument, because I don't use Python, I don't know, let's say Python does not solve differential equations well. So I'm running my Python program, but I've got differential equations I need to solve. I can use embed code to put this code right here in my Python program. From here, it goes to our Wolfram cloud servers, solves it, puts my answer back in, I continue on with Python. In other words, we're partnering with this open source program that is in many, many places, so you don't have to choose. You can use the best of Mathematica with what you've already built. Beyond that,
But then can I go back to how to visualize? So I have a neural network, like I wrote it in Python. I want to use your Wolfram, your Mathematica as a front end for a solver, if you like. So I write my differential equations, because usually these neural networks, they use something called gradient method. Okay, so I write all that in Python, where I take it from somewhere, because it's an incredible amount of algorithms already written in Python. And then I want to combine that and visualize some application, machine learning. Can Mathematica help me do that quickly? Because right now, I'm teaching that stuff, and it's not so easy to lead. I mean, you have to be able to program. And what we're trying to do is to make it accessible to people that don't have to learn all the details of the program. Can I go to Mathematica using that code and take something that's in Python, run it, take the results of some database, and then visualize them by using R? Or that, knowing all the details of either language. That's an application we have right now.
Yeah, the idea behind embed code is if you need to take what you have in Mathematica and throw it somewhere else, that's sort of the one-way street there. If you want to pull R and Python back into Mathematica or put a live link, there's a different way to do that. For one, I can actually enter Python code inside of the Mathematica notebook. So if I click this, I'm in a blank notebook, if I click this plus sign, and choose external language input, I can actually insert Python code here. In case you've got code in Python you want to put here, but then you want to wrap and manipulate around it once you have it. There is an API called R-Link, which will give a live link between R and Mathematica. So we can link the two applications together, change things in R, and it will show up in this visualization you made in Mathematica. The simplicity of how you can do that and represent it, that's, in my opinion, that's very subjective. It depends on your experience, depends on what the task is. So, so number one, I would need to know more about it and learn a little bit about myself. But even if not, because University of Maryland has a site license, you have access to our technical support team. Anything, I'm not going to be a Mathematica expert on many of the things you're needing, but I know the people that will, and your site license gives you access to them. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. I have a lot to show. I'm using Mathematica as a slideshow tool. I use PowerPoint for other things, but what I'm doing that PowerPoint cannot do is what I've been doing this whole time, changing my slideshow as I'm presenting. It's a dynamic environment. And you know about the connection with Wolfram Alpha and Mathematica, but you have your own data, so how can we import data and deal with external data? I like to say we play nicely with others. Here are 150 plus file formats that Mathematica can import from. Do you all deal with any 3D printing at all?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
We have a whole lab on robotic realization lab. Okay?
Let's see
Right
here.
now, everything is happening by transferring files from one program to the other.
Gotcha. So you can import STL files, you can import 3DS files. 3D printing was updated in version 11 as well. While we're talking about that, let me step aside and say, you can go from Mathematica to the 3D printer. In version 11, you can start at Mathematica, have Mathematica analyze your 3D model to find weak places in the mesh of the
What
model.
geometric modeling you link into?
What's that, I'm sorry?
What geometric modeling you link into?
External modeling, I think the one that we have in our examples here
So
is
can
called,
you link with Solid Modeler or CATIA at all?
I'm not sure, I've not heard of that one.
Because that's the one we use.
Yeah, let's see. The
So
one
I'm
we
trying
use
to
is
design
called-
a robotic arm, right? There's a guy here who's working on exactly this program. So I'm trying to design a robotic arm, and I want to do everything before I build it. Okay? And I want to be able to do some things, visualize it, simulate it, see if I'm happy. I want to put it into rows and see the simulations and so forth. Can Mathematica really go in between?
Oh, I see, prototyping. So not necessarily the building, but the systems.
Well, and once I'm happy and I have all the components, then I can use the facility to describe, I link to
Right,
the 3D printers machine that are across our
Yeah.
lab, and then I can go pick it up.
yeah. If Mathematica cannot do that, then our program called Wolfram System Modeler is the one that will do that. Wolfram System Modeler is the sort of our...
You want to talk to us about the model?
I can show a bit of it, yes. System Modeler is sort of our competitor to Symbolic. But what is the other one? Dymola? That's another one in that.
Modelica, yeah, Modelica.
Yeah. System Modeler is built on the Modelica language. You can connect to other devices from it. You can connect Arduino boards to it. There are free libraries. There's a biochem library, a model plug library, hydraulics library, and some others. So yeah.
What do you do with asymmetrics?
What do we do with them? Sorry.
The third you have over there is referring to the electronic chips that we use to basically measure expression of genes, right?
I've never had anybody ask me about Affymetrix before. I've never even noticed the list before, so I'm not sure. There's 150 of them, Josh.
I can ask questions about every one of them.
I'm sure
You
you
don't
should.
have OpenStreetMap.
I'm sorry?
You do not have OpenStreetMap. You
Yeah.
have KML, but you do not have OpenStreetMap. OSM is something.
So let me ask
Let's see.
something. If we have a need for something, right? That we think, because we are quite, at least a couple of us here are very advanced in Mathematica and Symbolic computation, that we think you could do, to whom we address the suggestion.
If you need, okay.
It's not why we need, it's okay. Because we probably could do it ourselves. The question is,
Right.
if we think that that's something that we're going to suggest as an audience,
Yeah.
which is not small, and you may be interested in putting into your products, to whom we make the suggestion and with whom we work to actually make it happen.
Depending on what it is and who the audience is, you start with me, and I will either send you
Because we
to.
need technical people, right? In the IT,
Right.
We used to do in the old days.
Yeah, because there are many different fields, is it a partnerships group where you're gonna be partnering with industry to do this? That's not me, that's a separate group. Is it gonna be, let's incorporate it into our technology, into our language base? Then you talk to me and I connect you with technical support. Either way,
Okay.
I'm the gatekeeper. I'm the middleman to get you
And
to.
the response time is?
Well, my response time, June, July, and August is slow, because that's when everybody pays the bills and payroll is fine. My response time between October and March is extremely quick, because that's when I'm less busy. People are doing.
They're from you.
Yeah. All right. Let me keep going. I'm not going to get through all my material, and that's okay. That's fine.
I want you to spend at least 10 minutes just on Mozart.
Sure. Okay.
Because that's what a lot of people get.
All right. So let me scoot through and let me think here for just a moment. Okay, I do want to talk a little bit about symbolic and numeric computation. I'm going to skip through to some other things. That's really important. Mathematica is enormous. 6,000 and more functions built in. All the basic stuff, integrals, partial derivatives. Oops, sorry, straight mark here. Here we have a system of differential equations describing a linear damped pendulum, but as I add a damping factor, I see that this begins to slow down with each pass. Yeah. Numerically speaking, Mathematica is strong in that we have functions with algorithms built in the back end of them. In integrate, in solve, will pre-process a function to choose the correct solver that goes with it. All right. Now, you can apply your own solver. Let's say you have this method you want to use just for your whole experiment, like a control. That's fine. But many times you can get Mathematica to tell you what solver it chose. Let me show you this example. The system of differential equations. I'm going to get rid of everything except the actual solution. So I'm going to delete everything that has to do with the plot. In this case, Mathematica tells me it's using an interpolating function. And I don't know how to pronounce it. Hermite? Yes. So it's using this method right here. That's the method it chose. As
Let me give you an example of what we're doing here, so I can understand the level of complexity we are thinking about. We're using Hermite polynomials and something we call spheroid parallel functions on spheres to solve problems that the native polynomial architect. I have a student, Kevin is his name, he's working at APL, and working some very difficult problems of this type. So we want to go back to what David and I were doing 30 years ago, trying to solve linear affinity problems with this whole kind of approximation. So, and I'm trying to figure out to what extent Mathematica can be essentially the glue between the different programs we're using.
Okay, that's a really.
So I like some of the things you had in terms of composing algorithms and representations and so on and so forth. Or if you like, I can do the same thing, take the window of this damn thing, and I want to do not just slopes of that, and I want to do quadratic approximations, and I can do all this stuff, and I want to be able to visualize it. So can I do that quickly?
Again.
Because right now he's spending days trying to combine programs and show me the results and realize what we're doing wrong, etc., etc.
Yeah. Can you tell me specifically which programs he's using?
I can say
Yeah.
10.
Yeah, that's
And some of them are very advanced methods for solving numerical partial differential equations. But what you want is to be able to quickly go from a concept,
Yeah.
and because we have the mathematical representation of the equations, meaning we have the symbolic form,
Right.
and we try to go like we used to do with David, back, the symbolic form to numerics, get them back, but then capitalize on the very powerful visualization tools you have and start seeing to what extent, for instance, the algorithm we have works in tracking the target, when it gets in trouble, when it blows up, things like that. This is the kind of thing we're interested in.
Right. So inside of Mathematica in version 11, we greatly increased our PDE capability. We included support for finite element analysis as well. That was something I had to pay for, now it's part of our system. I do know that we have a lot of government contracts. We have a lot, we get a lot of money from the Department of Defense. And it's not just about paperwork, and not just about analysis. It's about, there was a project, I don't know, it's a good thing that I don't remember a lot of the details because I'm not supposed to know them, but the Europa project was using Mathematica and System Modeler for some of the tracking and some of those things there. Yep. All right. When it comes to the type and the scale and the size of the data you're dealing with, this is going to be important to you. Mathematica tries to use two processors when it does any computation, but if you use parallel commands, it will open up all that you have on your machine. All right, I have 4 cores, so Mathematica tries to use all 4 of them. In this case, I can't parallelize it because it chooses not to, but it gives me my correct answer anyway. Since you guys have a site license for Mathematica here, there are various groups that are paying into Central IT to have access to Mathematica. You can install Mathematica on a cluster. If you've got a cluster with multiple nodes, hundreds of nodes, you can install Mathematica there and work with...
How well does it work with students? How well does it work with students? And graphical processor and all that stuff?
We put this inside of Mathematica back at version 8, and we've optimized it multiple times. So, yeah, and it's just as simple as, instead of using transpose for a matrix, using Q to transpose, and Mathematica knows to have your GPU card solve that.
Okay, you go to tensors.
Yes. Tensors as well.
Because that's important for us for some of the work we do for machine learning and neural networks and all that stuff.
Yep.
So we can do that easily now with the stuff that Google provides via TensorFlow, that you know, all that stuff. But then, again, it's one program. If I want to go from one program to the other and put it back into something I'm doing system engineering, for instance.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. Mathematica is getting bigger, we're expanding, and we want you to be able to live more in our space so you don't have to do what you're speaking of, this program, that program, and make them connect. Let me jump over to machine learning, and then let me show you a little bit about System Modeler. Again, let's see here. We just upgraded to System Modeler 12. We skipped from 5 to 12, so it matched the Mathematica numbers. And I know a little bit about System Modeler, but it will give you a sense of the scope of what it can do. So let me talk about machine learning first. When it comes to machine learning, our commercial salespeople are making their money from selling Mathematica to companies needing to do machine learning and setting neural networks. Let me give you some examples just to show you what we're doing. There's a major pest control company that hired us to build an application that would include image processing and machine learning that would allow them to go on the home site, take a picture of the ant infestation, load it through our application, so it will tell them what type of ant it is and what pesticide to use. Disney is going to purchase the Wolfram engine, which is a developer / cloud-based product with a front end to install on the lead train car of all of its trains on one of its rides. So that daily it will give a report of maintenance needs, wear and tear on different structures in that train car, so they can do nightly maintenance instead of shut the ride down and do large-scale maintenance in that way. I'm assuming if Disney trusts us, then that's high praise, right? So here's a small example because I'm doing a presentation. What this is we took 150 handwritten digits and applied them to what the digits are. When I evaluate this, Mathematica is training itself on this data set. There are a few, I mentioned super functions like integrate and nd solve. Classify is the machine learning super function. The other one is called predict. Mathematica uses nearest neighbors algorithm to do this. Then what I did was I took the drawing tools menu and drew a 4 to see if Mathematica could recognize that this is a 4, and it does. Here's, at the beginning of my seminar, we talked about text examples. Here is an example in the field of linguistics. What this is a short, not even 3-line example that allows you to enter a phrase and it gives you the probability and what language it is. Buenos dias. Wouldn't talk? Here we go. Let me show you a place where this fails, though. And let me explain why I'm doing this. I was at the University of Maryland in Baltimore a few semesters ago, and a professor, he was a medical professor, he was from Russia. He said, type in the word Predictive. I said, okay. Oops, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Thank you. Prevent. I said, oh. He said, that's a Russian phrase. I said, well, maybe it's a strange Russian word. He said, no, that's the Russian word for high. No, this is not good. And so, but then he stopped listening. He was done. But I talked to our support team and I said, why is this happening? And their first response is, well, anything with language and linguistics is going to take human interpretation. I said, okay, I understand that. He said, but what if you grab the native alphabet, use the Cyrillic alphabet to enter this? And so first of all, I thought to myself, that's amazing. I didn't realize that my English version of Mathematica understood all these different alphabets. But once I do that, then it recognizes that it is a new expression. Which is something
Maybe that's working because you're excluding a lot of other languages.
Maybe so.
Definitely.
Huh?
Definitely.
Yeah,
I
maybe
mean,
so.
that doesn't mean to say it works any better. It just means that you've eliminated all the competition.
No, but the reason I ask him things about knowledge representation originally is because I know it's automatic translation things. That's the first thing they do. They try to find the language. If they find the language, they go to the native way you write the letters, and then you do the condition automatically.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you do that, but that's something I work with. Because that's what you can do. I mean, you're not trying to understand Russian by Greek characters. You can.
No.
Right.
That's not so bad because the only two letters that they change. But still, you're gonna have a lot of problems. But if you try to do Farsi with Russian, you're gonna have trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Right? Despite claims of politicians to the opposite.
Okay.
It's the modeler. We want to see.
Okay, all right. So here you go. I was just thinking to myself, I need to take some more internal courses so I learn more about this. This is different than Mathematica, but before I get started, I will say that you can build a model in System Modeler, and then you can export it and view the whole thing inside of Mathematica, which is relatively new. That wasn't a connection that was easily made before. There's a connection that you can link System Modeler for Mathematica and pull that data in and run models there, or view the whole model in System here in Mathematica. So it's a great tool to start out with a few people having it, because you can view the results in what you already have. So let me just do a couple of examples. And again, remember I'm a math education guy. So what I've had to learn on the job for the specifics of selling it. So here we go. Let me find my first model. Let's see. Okay. A very basic working BC number. Let's just start here. So this is a drag and drop environment. Let me make that a bigger. This is a drag and drop environment, kind of like Symbolic is. Okay. The difference here is that it is component based. It is multi-domain. So I can combine biological components with electrical components with other sorts of things.
You're basically competing with Modelica.
This is using the Modelica language.
Well, you're using
It's using the Modelica. And let me back up and say, this product used to be called Mathemodica.
Right.
The Math Core company, we absorbed the Math Core company and retooled this, so now it's part of us. Spoke about Maple. Maple was absorbed by another company. We're the ones who work with this. Should put that out there. All right. So let's see here. So let me complete this by putting a resistor in there. So let me see if I can remember the pathway. Let's go to Modelica and electrical.
They give you all the libraries from Modelica and all that stuff, right? So using all the component models and libraries from Modelica.
Yes. So we're going to grab the resistor. We're going to just drop it right in. We connect these pieces there. Let's give the resistor just a value of 1 ohm. Okay. So now I'm going to click this button to simulate the model.
Okay.
Simulate it.
You can do the one simulation of that across domains.
You should be able to, yeah. Now again, this is a basic model.
Because where we get bogged down is when we would have, say, thermodynamics, mechanics, and electrical.
Yes, it's multi-domain, yes.
And then we want to be able to have at least a quick way to get a simulation working.
Yeah, yeah, oh, no, yeah, that is one of the hooks why people are choosing this over Simulink or moving, because of the multi-domain feature, that's one of its hallmarks.
Yes.
So then let's see here, let's pull this down and I can choose some boxes to look at. You know, here we have the current flowing into the pin, resistance, temperature, reference temperature. So we can explore lots of things here. Then let's look at a 3D model. Let me show you this. All right, let me pull this up. Let's go to files. I think I want excavator. Okay. Yes, this excavator, this is part of our system modeler documentation. So the idea here is that I'm going to take this model. This came from some sort of 3D modeling software. What we're going to do is we're going to model, of course, the scooping, moving, and change this and update it. So let me move back over to my simulation center. Let me open up this. This animation takes a long time, so I loaded this up previously. So that it wouldn't take up. Yeah, I think this is the one that actually does the whole thing.
In the meanwhile, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So I know the Wolfram System Modeler works well with FMI, which is basically the tool that we use for
Yes.
it to talk with other software.
Right, yes.
But the problem here is we are predominantly into systems engineering, right? So we use something called the Cameo Systems Modeler. It's now acquired by Dorsett Systems, which is basically a distribution of SysML. So as far as I remember, when I tried it over the summer, about July, Wolfram System Modeler is very good at exporting the FMI models, but it doesn't do importing with SysML. So is that something that we could see getting fixed? Because it really doesn't work if you can't import and export, right? So the thing that we do is we use specialized software like MATLAB or Mathematica or anything else, and we try to integrate it with SysML. But the problem that I went into is basically I tried using it, and it exports very well, but it doesn't import it from SysML. So if you can build something in there, you can actually bring in SysML to make it a black box kind of a thing, but you can't export everything that you've done using the computational power of Mathematica.
You tried it this summer. Do you remember what version of
This was 12.
It was System Modeler
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
That is a really good question. That was going to be my first thing. You know, is it an older version? Again,
Initially, he's asking this question because systems modeling language is a modification of the UML. It's very widely used now, or at least people trying to use it, companies and otherwise, to create block diagrams of systems, both for what we call the structure of the system, the behavior of the system, meaning what the system consists of, and also what the system does. So this is the starting place where a lot of people start the system engineering work. But then you need to simulate, you need to trade-off analysis also. And there isn't a satisfactory software framework to do that now.
Okay.
And that's a problem.
Okay.
Big problem.
Okay.
Well, something that's easy to use, like, you could do it in Measure Tool, but it would be it's hard. It's really hard.
The companies are complaining that they were not addressing the so-called front-end problem. Now, with making our framework and tools easily usable by the desktop of any engineer. So what I was hoping for is that your talk and other interactions to may examine whether system model can be again another go-in-between.
Yeah.
So far, all the go-in-betweens we tried, they have actually not exactly worked.
Okay. Okay. So you
Yeah,
say
well,
it will.
Yep.
You say it will export,
Yeah, it
but
won't
it doesn't
import.
import very well,
Yeah.
okay. Did you get it to import just some of the things and not all of them, or just all the imports failed?
All the imports fail because the support is only for FMU export and not
Okay,
import.
okay. I mean, it states here it's support for import and export of all FMI standards, but if there's an exception, obviously I don't have that information on me right now, but when I send you the email, if you signed in the sign-in sheet, reply and just briefly explain that to me so I remember who you are and what that is, and I can get our math core team to look at that.
We've been struggling with this problem now for about 4 years.
Okay. Okay, that's good for me to know. Yeah, okay. And let me show you very quickly the library store and what's available. The connection, the model plug is what you would use to connect to other devices, of course. System dynamics is probably something that would be useful with systems engineering. Some of these other things, I don't know if the biochem would be useful to you at all. These prices are list prices, by the way, too. If System Modeler works, and if it's something that you want some of these other libraries, this is list pricing, it's not site license pricing too. So just keep that in mind because this is really expensive. I can't spend $4,300 for one library. Well, that's because you're not going to. It's cheaper than that. So, okay. We are after 12 o'clock. I ran out of time. I need to update one of these models because it was not better. Well, you know, let me show this real quick. Let me go to the System Modeler page here to show you the back and forth between Mathematica and System Modeler. This is from the Documentation Center for this excavator.
For the afternoon, it will be useful.
If you have the System Modeler, yeah.
No, it will be just useful even to just list to us examples of where people can use System Modeler in real world in industry to see who is right. Is it auto industry? Is it, energy? Is it power? If you have examples like this, if you don't, that's fine.
I have there are examples from the website.
Google.
I know that we can Google it. I do know that, of course, it's an easy fit for the automotive industry, for anything mechanical. Modeling mechanical systems, modeling electrical systems and current, things like that. Also, biological models. It's not just engineering, but it seems like mechanical/electrical, and then it is biological models, modeling drug behavior and absorption through the body of a rat or of a animal, things like that. So we're getting a lot of traction in that area. And then, of course, I mentioned the Europa project was using System Modeler in a big way. Overall, Mathematica is our largest, it's our flagship product, and that's what the vast majority of people are using. But that's also because System Modeler is not really a niche product, but it is much less widely applicable to many other
I mean, Andy, we're working on this area, for instance, right now, we go to consumer products. Okay? We're trying to set up a system with our biomedical engineers to try to see if we can get to biomedical engineers something easy that they can do system engineering for medical instruments. Because right now, when I try to do that, it takes the person 2 years to even get started. That's not scalable. They're not going to do that. Okay?
Right.
So,
Right. Okay. All right. I tell you what, before the time's out, we're going to have that roundtable later on. Where's that sign-in sheet?
okay, let's take the speaker.
Okay. Thank you.